He took the blow for the princess, and the queen refused to let him go. The sun of Elysium Prime shone brightly across the sprawling orbital city, reflecting off the silver towers and glass domes that stretched across the platform like a shining crown. Ships of every shape and color floated lazily in the space lanes above, moving with the precision of a well-rehearsed dance. Elysium Prime was humanity's jewel among the stars, a city of peace and prosperity, and it was also the seat of the solar throne. Cale Varen walked through the bustling streets of the capital district, his eyes scanning the crowds with calm alertness. Even in the midst of a celebration, his instincts as a soldier never slept. At 27, Cale was young for a warrior of his skill, but the countless battles he had fought in the frontier worlds had tempered him into a living weapon. Muscles coiled like springs beneath his uniform, and a scar ran down the left side of his jaw, a souvenir from a skirmish with the Verk raiders on the edge of the Andara Nebula. But today was not a day for fighting. Today was a day of ceremony. The city had gathered in the central arena, a massive circular platform that floated above the city like a silver disk. People filled the terraces, cheering and waving banners, their faces lit with joy and excitement. The occasion was the first public appearance of Princess Lyra, heir to the solar throne, after months of diplomatic tour across the neighboring star systems. She had returned to her home city to greet the people, and the arena had been prepared for her in full glory. Cale had been assigned as her personal protector. It was an honor, though it was not without its tension. Serving the crown was different from patrolling a battlefront. Here, he had to balance vigilance with decorum, courage with restraint. Still, he took his duty seriously. He had sworn an oath long ago, and he would keep it, no matter the cost. The princess herself emerged from the grand entrance, her silver gown sparkling under the sunlight. Her hair shimmered like liquid gold, cascading down her shoulders in perfect waves. She smiled and waved at the crowd, her voice clear and melodious as she greeted her people. Cale observed her from the side, his hand never far from the energy blade at his hip. For Cale, it was not just duty that kept him alert, it was instinct. Something in the air felt wrong. He had learned long ago to trust those instincts, and even amid the cheers of the crowd, he noticed a shadow moving against the pattern of the people. A figure, tall and swift, darted among the spectators, blending seamlessly with the celebrants but carrying a deadly energy in every motion. Cale's heart quickened. He could not tell if the figure was armed, but he did not wait to find out. His hand tightened on the hilt of his weapon, and he scanned the crowd, eyes trained to detect the faintest sign of danger. Princess Lyra continued her greetings, waving gracefully, unaware of the threat that was approaching. Cale's instincts sharpened like a blade, slicing through the noise of the crowd. His mind raced, calculating the fastest path to intercept any attacker without alarming the people around them. Then it happened. A high-pitched hum filled the air, barely audible over the cheers. Cale's instincts flared, and he turned just in time to see a figure leap from the upper terrace. It was the assassin. Their energy blade, glowing blue and humming with lethal energy, aimed directly at the princess. Without thinking, Cale moved. Faster than anyone in the arena could comprehend, he threw himself in front of Lyra. The energy blade struck his shoulder and chest with a flash of light. Pain exploded through him, hot and bright, but Cale remained standing, shielding the princess with his body. The crowd gasped in horror. Some screamed. Others froze, unable to move as they watched the scene unfold. Princess Lyra's eyes widened, her hand rising instinctively to touch Cale's shoulder, though he remained stoic, refusing to show the pain that threatened to overtake him. Cale's body shook, but his mind remained clear. He could feel the assassin's presence, calculating the next move. The attacker was fast, skilled, and determined, but Cale had something they did not. A heart that refused to let harm touch the people he swore to protect. With a surge of strength born from desperation, Cale pivoted, using the momentum of the strike to knock the assassin off balance. The energy blade clattered to the floor, harmlessly spinning away from both of them. Soldiers from the arena guards rushed forward, surrounding the intruder before they could attempt another strike. Cale stood, breathing heavily, as the crowd erupted into applause. Cheers and shouts filled the arena, blending with the gasps of shock and awe. The people had witnessed heroism, and in that moment Cale became more than a soldier. He became a symbol, a living proof that humanity could stand fearless in the face of danger. Princess Lyra looked at him with wide, grateful eyes. Kale, are you? Her voice faltered, the reality of the danger only sinking in now. I'm fine, Princess, Kale said, his voice calm despite the pain. You're safe. He forced himself to straighten, though every breath sent a sharp pain through his chest. The arena medics rushed forward, surrounding him with healing devices and stabilization tools. Kale allowed them to work, though he knew his wounds were serious. He had taken the blow fully absorbing energy that could have killed another person instantly. As Kale was lifted from the arena floor on a hover stretcher, Queen Amara herself appeared at the edge of the platform, her expression unreadable. She approached swiftly, her regal bearing cutting through the chaos. Her eyes met Kale's, sharp and piercing, and for the first time Kale felt the weight of her scrutiny. You saved her, the Queen said, her voice cold yet commanding. You risked your life for the princess. Why? Kale looked at her steadily, refusing to bow or flinch under her gaze. Because it was my duty, Your Majesty. She is the future of our people. I could not allow harm to come to her. Queen Amara's eyes narrowed, as though trying to peer into his very soul. And yet, she said slowly, your actions have consequences. You may have saved her life, but you have also placed yourself directly in danger. The crown cannot afford to lose someone like you, Kale Varen. Not now, not ever. Kale's brow furrowed. Your Majesty, I am a soldier. My duty is to humanity, to the people, to the princess. I am ready to continue serving wherever I am needed. The Queen's gaze hardened. No, not wherever you are needed. You are coming with me. You will remain under my watch. The crown will not allow your heroism to be wasted, or your life risked again. You will stay in the palace until I deem it safe. Kale opened his mouth to protest, but he realized arguing would achieve nothing. The Queen's word was law, and her decision was final. He was being pulled into a new kind of battlefield, one that required patience, strategy, and loyalty beyond the front lines. Princess Lyra, still shaken, reached out and took Kale's hand gently. Kale, thank you, she said softly. Her voice was full of emotion, gratitude, and something else he could not quite name, a quiet admiration for the man who had thrown himself between her and certain death. Kale managed a small smile. It was nothing, Princess. I only did what any human should do. I will always protect you. The Queen motioned to the medics to take Kale away. As he was carried toward the royal hovercraft, he glanced back at Lyra. She nodded slightly, silently acknowledging their unspoken bond. It was a fleeting moment, but it burned brightly in his mind. As the hovercraft lifted off the arena and into the sky, Kale felt the city stretching below him like a web of light and life. He had saved the princess, yes, but now he was entering a new chapter, one where his courage would be tested in ways he could not yet imagine. One where the crown itself would decide his fate. And somewhere deep inside, Kale knew this was only the beginning. The shadows of Elysium Prime loomed around him, and in those shadows, dangers yet unseen were waiting. But Kale Varen, human, fearless, and unyielding, was ready to face them. Because humanity, he realized, was strongest not in technology or weapons, but in the courage of hearts willing to protect one another, no matter the cost. The city stretched endlessly beneath him, a maze of lights, towers, and dreams. And Kale, bruised but unbroken, prepared to meet the future, whatever it might bring. The royal hovercraft cut through the bright blue sky above Elysium Prime, gliding smoothly over the city. Inside, Kale Varen lay on a narrow medical platform, his body still pulsing with pain from the energy blade strike. The medics moved quickly, applying advanced healing gel and stabilizing his wounds, but Kale refused to make a sound. To him, pain was temporary, a signal that he was alive and still able to serve. Queen Amara entered the chamber with her usual command. Her presence alone seemed to change the atmosphere. The room, already filled with the quiet hum of advanced technology, felt sharper, colder, and more precise under her gaze. You are awake, the Queen stated, her tone firm but not unkind. She approached the platform and studied Kale. Good. I wanted to see for myself that my champion is still breathing. Kale raised his head slightly. Your Majesty, he said, his voice steady, I am unharmed. Aside from the wound, it is nothing I cannot recover from. The Queen's eyes narrowed, scanning him with a look that seemed to see past the surface, through the man himself. It is not enough that you survived, she said slowly. You took a risk that could have ended not only your life but the balance of this entire city. And yet your heroism has already made you the people's symbol of courage. That is precisely why I cannot let you return to the battlefield. Kale's brow furrowed. I am a soldier. My duty is to humanity to fight wherever danger threatens. I swore an oath to protect the people, Your Majesty. Queen Amara shook her head. And that is precisely why you will remain here. You are not just a soldier now. You are a symbol. A reminder that humanity is brave, that even in the face of the unknown, courage can stand firm. Kale's jaw tightened. He had faced dozens of deadly enemies across the galaxy. He had been in firefights where entire squads had fallen. Yet here he was, confined to a palace chamber because the queen saw him as too valuable to risk. I did not fight for glory, he said quietly though firmly. I fought because it was necessary. The princess' life was at stake, and I acted as any human would. The queen studied him, her face calm but unreadable. Perhaps, she said, but some actions have consequences beyond the immediate moment. You have captured the hearts of the people, Kale Varen, and hearts are dangerous tools if not guided by careful hands. Kale remained silent. He understood her meaning. By stepping in front of the princess, he had become more than a soldier. He was now a figure of inspiration, a hero of humanity. And the queen intended to keep him close, as one keeps a valuable instrument, protected, controlled, and prepared to serve. Your wounds will heal quickly with proper care, the queen continued. And then you will train. Kale's eyes widened slightly. Train, Your Majesty, the queen nodded. Yes, you will train not only your body but your mind. There are dangers yet unseen, threats to our people that cannot be met with raw strength alone. You will be ready to lead, to defend, and to protect on a scale beyond a single skirmish or battlefield. You will be the shield of this city, and perhaps of all humanity. Kale understood the weight of her words. The queen was asking him to serve in a way he had never imagined, not as a soldier under command, but as a protector and symbol of humanity itself. As the hovercraft descended into the royal landing bay, Kale's mind raced. The palace gates opened to reveal a sprawling city of marble, glass, and light. Soldiers lined the perimeter, and royal attendants moved gracefully along the corridors. Everything here was controlled, calculated, and precise, and Kale would now become part of that system. He was escorted to a private chamber where medics continued their work. The room was luxurious, with wide windows showing a breathtaking view of the city below. Kale noted the contrast. Outside, life was vibrant and unpredictable. Inside, every detail was controlled. Princess Lyra arrived shortly after, her presence bringing a warmth to the otherwise clinical room. She knelt beside Kale's bed, her golden hair spilling over her shoulders. "You're awake," she said softly. I can't thank you enough, Kale. You saved my life." Kale managed a small smile. "It was my duty, Princess, nothing more." Lyra's eyes searched his face. "But it was more than that. You acted without hesitation, without fear. Most soldiers would have tried to dodge to protect themselves first. You didn't even think of yourself." Kale looked away, uncomfortable with praise. "I only did what had to be done." The princess placed her hand lightly on his. "No, you did more than what had to be done. You inspired hope. That is something that cannot be measured with orders or rules. Humanity needs heroes like you, Kale." Before Kale could respond, the queen entered the chamber again. Her presence silenced the room. Lyra stood immediately, though Kale remained still, understanding that this was no ordinary visit. "You two may have a moment of emotion," the queen said, her voice smooth and commanding. "But we have work to do. Kale Varen, your recovery is only the beginning. Your training will begin tomorrow. You will study strategy, diplomacy, and leadership. You will learn not only to fight, but to guide others. The crown cannot afford to have its most courageous protector unprepared for what lies ahead." Kale felt a mix of pride and frustration. Pride because the queen saw potential in him beyond his role as a soldier. Frustration because his freedom to choose his own path was gone. "Your Majesty," he said cautiously, "I am willing to learn, but I cannot be idle. I need to be where the danger is." The queen's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "And you will serve humanity in ways you have not yet imagined. You will not be idle, Kale. You will simply fight battles that matter most. Battles that require your mind, your courage, and your heart. And perhaps one day the battlefield you seek will be yours again, but only when the crown permits it." Kale nodded slowly. There was no point in arguing further. The queen had made her decision, and he would obey. He understood that true courage sometimes required patience, not just action. The next morning, Kale began his first day of palace life. He trained in the royal training halls, which were unlike any military base he had ever seen. The halls were equipped with gravity-adjusted platforms, holographic opponents, and simulation programs designed to test every aspect of a warrior's mind and body. Kale moved through the exercises with determination. He sparred with holographic soldiers, dodged simulated energy blasts, and ran obstacle courses that challenged his strength and reflexes. Every movement honed his skills, making him faster, sharper, and more precise. Yet, Kale knew that this was only the beginning. His training was designed not just to make him stronger, but to teach him strategy, patience, and leadership. He studied maps of the city, analyzed potential threats, and learned about diplomacy with neighboring star systems. The Queen herself oversaw much of his education, ensuring that he understood the political and social stakes of his actions. Through it all, Princess Lyra visited him frequently. She watched his training, asked questions about his experiences in battle, and shared her own knowledge of diplomacy and governance. Slowly, a bond formed between them, built on trust, respect, and shared understanding. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon of Elysium Prime, casting golden light across the city, Kale stood on the palace balcony. Lyra joined him, her gaze sweeping over the city lights. "Do you ever wish you could be out there?" she asked softly, nodding toward the distant horizon where ships moved like stars in the sky. Kale considered the question. "Every day," he admitted. "But I also know that where I am now, I can make a difference too. It may not be the battlefield I dreamed of, but it is still a battlefield of sorts, and I will fight here in any way I can." Lyra smiled faintly. "You always find courage, Kale. That is why the Queen values you so highly, not just for your strength, but for your heart." Kale looked at her, feeling a quiet determination settle in his chest. The Queen's command had restricted his freedom, but it had also given him a new purpose. He would protect humanity, protect the princess, and learn all that he could. And one day, perhaps, he would face the dangers he longed to confront, not as a pawn of the crown, but as a true champion of humanity. As night fell over Elysium Prime, the city's lights shimmered like a sea of stars. Kale stood silently, listening to the distant hum of the city, feeling the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on his shoulders. He had survived an attack that could have ended his life. He had become a symbol of courage. And he had entered a world where his heroism would be tested in ways he could not yet imagine. But Kale Varin was not afraid. Humanity had always faced dangers in the stars, and as long as people like him were willing to stand, to fight, and to protect, hope would never die. And somewhere deep in the palace, Queen Amara watched him quietly, already planning the next steps in the defense of her people. Kale had become more than a soldier. He had become a tool, a weapon, and a symbol, and the crown would see that his courage served its purpose. The palace of Elysium Prime was unlike anything Kale Varin had ever seen. Towering spires of white metal gleamed in the sunlight, their surfaces reflecting the city below in 1,000 patterns. Inside, the halls were a mixture of elegance and precision, adorned with polished floors, glowing panels, and murals depicting humanity's triumphs across the stars. Every corner seemed calculated, every room designed to impress, to inspire, and to remind visitors of the crown's power. Kale had been in the palace for weeks now. His wounds had healed, leaving only faint scars, reminders of the day he had thrown himself in front of the princess. Yet despite his recovery, he felt restless. Though the Queen had declared that he would be trained in strategy, leadership, and defense, he longed for the battlefield, the roar of engines, the smell of ozone in the air, and the tension of facing danger head-on. But the palace offered no such excitement. Instead, it offered lessons, observation, and constant surveillance. The Queen's eyes were everywhere. Every word, every action, and every interaction Kale had was noted. Some might have called it suffocating. Kale called it necessary. He had begun his daily routine early each morning. Physical training in the royal halls tested his strength, agility, and stamina. Holographic simulations challenged his reflexes against foes that could move faster than the human eye could follow. Tactical exercises pushed his mind to think several steps ahead, anticipating attacks and planning defenses for the entire city. Yet it was not just the training that kept him alert. Kale had begun to notice subtle things around the palace, strange movements in the hallways, whispers in the corridors, and people who watched him with quiet intensity. The palace, he realized, was a different kind of battlefield, one where information could be as deadly as any energy blade. Princess Lyra often joined him after training. She had become more than a royal observer. She had become a student of warfare in her own right, eager to understand Kale's insights and perspectives. Together, they would review tactical scenarios, discussing defense strategies for the city, potential threats from neighboring star systems, and the ways human ingenuity could turn the tide in seemingly impossible situations. One afternoon, Kale and Lyra stood in the observation deck overlooking the central city. Hollow maps of Elysium Prime projected in front of them, showing every sector, every defense turret, and every patrol route. "You've changed the way I see the city," Lyra said softly. "Before I thought of it as beautiful, strong, and untouchable. Now I see it as a living thing, full of potential weaknesses, but also strengths if we know how to use them." Kale nodded. "A city is like a living organism. Its people, its systems, even its walls, they can all fail if not maintained or understood. Defense is not just about soldiers or weapons. It's about knowledge, anticipation, and preparation." Lyra studied him for a moment. "And you anticipate danger even when it isn't there yet." Kale smiled faintly. "It's what humans do best. We survive not because we are the strongest, but because we adapt, because we think, learn, and act when others hesitate." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm in the palace. Red lights flashed across the corridors, and a low, urgent hum echoed through the halls. Kale's instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed a tactical communicator and sprinted toward the command center, Lyra close behind him. "Report!" Kale demanded as they entered the room. Hollow screens displayed activity across the palace perimeter. "Unknown intruders detected," a palace officer said quickly. "They have bypassed the external sensors. We are tracking their movements." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Where are they headed?" "Toward the inner courtyard," the officer replied. "They are fast and stealthy. Unknown energy signatures, possibly from a faction not seen before near Elysium Prime." Kale grabbed a sidearm and motioned for the guards to follow him. "Lock all exits. I will intercept them." Lyra touched his arm lightly. "Be careful." "I always am," Kale replied. His voice was calm, but his mind was sharp, calculating the best approach. They moved through the corridors, Kale leading the way, analyzing every shadow and reflection. The intruders were not just dangerous. They were clever, avoiding patrols and sensors with precision. Kale knew that they were more than ordinary thieves or assassins. They had purpose, training, and a plan. As they reached the inner courtyard, Kale paused behind a column. There he saw the intruders, three figures cloaked in dark suits that absorbed light, moving with unnatural silence. Each carried a weapon unfamiliar to Kale, humming with quiet energy. They seemed to be searching for something, their movements precise and coordinated. Kale stepped out from his cover, his voice loud and commanding. "Stop! You are surrounded!" The intruders froze for a moment, then turned slowly to face him. One stepped forward, its suit shimmering slightly, revealing an alien face beneath a transparent mask. "We are not here to harm the innocent," the figure said in a calm, precise tone. "We seek information. The crown possesses something of interest to our leaders." Kale's eyes narrowed. "And if I refuse to let you take it?" The alien's hand moved toward its weapon, but Kale's reflexes were faster. He drew his sidearm, energy blazing, and aimed directly at the figure. "I warned you." The intruder hesitated, then spoke. "Very well, but know this, human, force will not win this day. There are consequences for your interference." Kale did not respond with words. Instead, he moved with precision, engaging the intruders in close combat. His training in the palace, combined with his battlefield experience, gave him an advantage. He struck with quick, precise blows, avoiding energy blasts and using the courtyard structures as cover. Lyra watched from behind a pillar, awe and concern in her eyes. "Kale, you're amazing," she whispered. Kale glanced at her briefly. "Stay back, I will handle them." The battle was intense but brief. Kale disarmed two of the intruders, forcing them to retreat. The third, the alien leader, disengaged and vanished into a small teleportation device, leaving behind a faint shimmer in the air. Kale lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. The courtyard was silent once more, except for the distant hum of the palace systems. "They were looking for something," Kale said, glancing around. "And I think this is only the beginning. Whoever sent them knows about this palace and about me." Lyra approached him, concern in her eyes. "Kale, are you all right?" Kale nodded. "I'm fine, but this confirms what I feared. There are threats we do not yet understand. I cannot let this palace or humanity be caught off guard." Word of Kale's encounter spread quickly through the palace. The queen called an emergency council, bringing together advisors, scientists, and military leaders. Kale presented his observations, detailing the intruders, movements, technology, and potential motives. The council listened carefully, but the queen's focus remained on Kale. "You acted with courage and precision," she said. "That is why you remain indispensable, but courage alone is not enough. We must understand the enemy before we can defeat them." Kale agreed. "We need intelligence, preparation, and training. If these intruders return, we must be ready to stop them without risking the city or the princess." The queen nodded slowly. "Then that will be your task. You will continue your training, but now with a focus on strategy against unknown threats. You will work with our scientists and tacticians, and you will report directly to me." Kale bowed his head slightly, acknowledging her command. He knew that this was no longer just about protecting the princess or defending the city. It was about preparing humanity for challenges it had never faced before. In the days that followed, Kale's routine became even more intense. He spent hours in strategy simulations, analyzing potential threats, and running scenarios with holographic commanders. Scientists trained him in alien technology, teaching him to recognize weapons, energy systems, and tactics used by extraterrestrial forces. Palace guards sparred with him daily, challenging his reflexes and adaptability. Through it all, Kale never lost sight of his original goal: to protect Princess Lyra and ensure the safety of Elysium Prime. He trained his mind as rigorously as his body, learning patience, observation, and the subtle arts of anticipating an enemy's next move. Lyra remained by his side whenever she could, eager to learn and to understand the world he navigated. "You see the palace differently now," she said one evening as they stood on the balcony overlooking the city. "Every corridor, every guard, every detail, it matters." Kale nodded. "Yes, in a palace the smallest details can decide life or death. But it's also a place where humans can thrive if they are prepared, disciplined, and united." Lyra smiled. "Then we will make sure the palace and humanity is ready, together." Kale looked at her, feeling a quiet sense of determination. The queen had confined him here, yes, but she had also given him the chance to grow, to prepare for threats far beyond anything he had imagined. The palace was no longer just a prison. It was a training ground, a place where humanity's courage and ingenuity could be sharpened into something unstoppable. And Kale Varin, human, brave, and unyielding, would be at the center of it all. Because the shadows in the palace were growing, and the threats from beyond, the stars were only beginning to make themselves known. The first light of Elysium Prime's sun glinted across the city's towers, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the streets below. For most citizens, it was just another day. A day for work, for study, for walking along the bright plazas and floating walkways of their city. But for Kale Varin, the day had already begun with an urgent alert from the city's defense network. He stood in the palace command center, the holographic map of the city glowing in front of him. The red blips on the display showed ships moving fast through the upper atmosphere. "Unidentified vessels," Kale muttered, his voice low but tense. "They're heading straight for the city." Princess Lyra stood beside him, her brow furrowed. "Are they the same attackers as before?" she asked. Kale shook his head. "No, these are larger, more organized. Whoever they are, they know what they want, and they're prepared to take it by force." The queen entered the command room, her expression sharp, composed, and commanding. "Kale," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the chamber, "I trust you are ready. This is no longer a simulation. The safety of the city and the people rests in your hands." Kale nodded firmly. "I understand, Your Majesty. We will not fail." The alarm blared across the palace and the city, signaling the start of the invasion. Citizens rushed to designated shelters while city defense turrets powered up, and security drones rose into the sky. Kale sprinted toward the palace courtyard, where the main defensive teams were assembling. His chest still bore the faint scars from the day he had shielded Princess Lyra, but the memory of that pain only strengthened his resolve. Outside, the first wave of alien ships broke through the outer atmosphere, their sleek black hulls glinting against the sky. They moved in coordinated formations, weapons glowing, ready to strike. Kale activated the city's defense grid, aligning turrets and energy shields while issuing commands to the human soldiers stationed along the main streets. "This is not just about defense," Kale said to his teams, his voice carrying over the comms. We need to outthink them, watch their patterns, protect civilians first, and remember our strength is in unity and courage. Do not falter. The battle began with a thunderous roar. Energy blasts streaked across the sky, lighting the city in flashes of red and blue. Shields shimmered under impact, absorbing the brunt of the alien assault. Kale moved through the streets, directing troops, helping civilians escape, and intercepting smaller attack squads with precision strikes. Even with their advanced weapons, the aliens could not match the human determination and ingenuity. Kale's leadership turned chaos into order. Barricades were set up in narrow streets, improvised traps slowed the enemy advance, and citizens were guided to safety with calm efficiency. Princess Lyra coordinated from the palace command center, her clear voice giving orders to the defense teams. Energy shields, Sector 5, redirect drones to Sector 7, keep civilians moving toward the shelters. Kale glanced up at the palace from the battlefield. She was glowing with authority, her presence as commanding as the Queen, yet tempered with care for her people. He realized that her courage was as vital to this battle as any weapon or soldier. Hours passed, the city shaking with the impact of relentless attacks. Kale's body ached from exertion, and yet he did not stop. Every moment counted. A small group of alien skirmishers had broken through the western perimeter, heading straight for the central plaza where civilians were crowded together. Kale raced toward them, energy blade at the ready. He moved with a speed and precision that had become almost unnatural from months of training. The alien soldiers were strong, but they underestimated human adaptability and Kale's experience. With careful strikes and well-timed maneuvers, he neutralized the threat, ensuring that no civilian was harmed. The battle was far from over. Larger enemy vessels descended toward the city center, preparing to breach the palace perimeter. Kale signaled the defense turrets, coordinating fire with the drones and human soldiers. Explosions rocked the streets as alien ships were hit, some crashing to the surface while others veered away. Amid the chaos, Kale noticed a disturbance near the palace gates. A cloaked figure slipped past the outer defense, moving with stealthy precision. Kale's heart sank. He recognized the pattern from before. "They're trying to strike from the inside," he muttered. He raced toward the gates, encountering the intruder just as they reached the central doors. The alien leader from before had returned, this time with a small team. They were armed with energy weapons that could pierce the palace shields if given a chance. Kale engaged them immediately, moving faster than the eye could follow. He dodged blasts, blocked strikes, and countered with controlled force. The palace guards joined him, but it was Kale's experience and tactical mind that made the difference. He predicted the aliens' movements, turning their attacks against them. Within minutes, the intruder group was forced to retreat, leaving behind only a faint shimmer as their teleportation devices activated. Breathing heavily, Kale took a moment to survey the scene. The city was battered, the streets littered with debris, but the people had survived. Soldiers and civilians alike had shown courage and resilience, inspired by Kale's example. Princess Lyra appeared at his side, having rushed down from the palace once she knew the intruders were inside. "Kale," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "you saved the palace and so many lives. You've done more than anyone could have imagined." Kale shook his head, exhaustion weighing on him. "I only did what had to be done. We all did it together, the people, the soldiers, even you. Without your guidance, the defense wouldn't have worked." The Queen arrived shortly after, her presence commanding silence among the gathered soldiers and citizens. "Kale Varin," she said, her voice echoing over the plaza, "today you have proven what I already knew. Courage, intelligence, and human spirit can overcome any challenge. But this battle is only the beginning." Kale looked at her, wiping sweat and grime from his brow. "Then we prepare, Your Majesty. Whatever comes next, we will be ready." The Queen nodded. "Yes, and Kale, you will lead that preparation. You will train others, coordinate defenses, and anticipate threats. Your actions today have inspired not only the people of this city, but all of humanity. You are no longer just a soldier. You are a symbol, and symbols must endure." The words weighed heavily on Kale. He had once fought for survival, for duty, for those immediately around him. Now he fought for something larger: hope, courage, and the future of humanity itself. Over the next several days, Kale worked tirelessly. Repairs were made to the city's defenses, training drills were intensified, and new strategies were developed to counter future attacks. Kale supervised the efforts personally, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. Yet even in the midst of preparation, Kale could not ignore the personal toll of the battle. Citizens he had saved approached him, offering thanks, admiration, and stories of how his courage had inspired them to act bravely. Children painted murals of him in the city streets, calling him the shield of humanity. It was overwhelming, yet humbling. Kale realized that heroism was not only about defeating enemies, it was about inspiring others to believe in themselves. Princess Lyra remained by his side throughout, her respect and admiration for Kale growing with each passing day. "You carry the weight of the city on your shoulders," she said one evening as they watched the sun set over the horizon. "Do you ever feel it will be too much?" Kale shook his head. "No, humanity is strong. We survive because we work together, because we care for each other, and because we refuse to give in to fear. I am only one person, but I am not alone, and as long as people like you lead, we will endure anything." Lyra smiled softly. "Then together we will protect humanity, no matter what comes." As night fell over Elysium Prime, the city glowed like a jewel in the darkness. Ships still patrolled the skies, guards kept watch, and the people slept knowing they were safe, at least for now. But Kale Varen knew that peace was temporary. The shadows of the universe were long, and threats beyond the stars were growing. Yet he was ready. He had faced danger, seen courage in action, and protected those who could not protect themselves. The siege had tested him, challenged him, and changed him. But Kale had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever, because humanity's strength was not in its technology, its weapons, or even its shields. It was in the hearts of those willing to stand, to fight, and to inspire others. And Kale Varen, human, fearless, and unyielding, would continue to do exactly that. The stars above Elysium Prime shimmered, promising challenges, adventures, and dangers yet to come. And Kale, at the center of it all, was ready to meet them. The city of Elysium Prime glowed softly under the early morning sun, its towers shining like polished silver. The streets, once battered from the siege, now hummed with life. Citizens walked freely, merchants set up their stalls, and children played among the restored gardens. For the first time in weeks, the city felt safe. Kale Varen stood on a balcony of the royal palace, overlooking the heart of the city. His uniform was worn from the battle, his body still aching, but his mind was clear. The siege had tested him, stretched his endurance, and forced him to confront dangers he had never imagined. Yet despite the exhaustion, he felt a sense of fulfillment. Humanity had survived, not because of technology or weapons, but because of courage, unity, and determination. Behind him, the palace doors opened, and Princess Lyra entered, her golden hair catching the sunlight. She moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen danger and emerged stronger. Her eyes, however, held a softness reserved for those who had shared trials together. "Kale," she said, her voice gentle, "the city owes you more than words can express. You've done what no one else could. You've saved lives, inspired hope, and reminded everyone why humanity will endure." Kale shook his head slightly. "I did what had to be done. The people fought bravely alongside me. You guided them with wisdom. The credit is shared, Princess. Without everyone, we would not have succeeded." Lyra stepped closer, resting a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Still, you were at the center of it all, and the people, they see you as their shield. They look to you for courage, Kale. That is something no one can take away." Kale exhaled slowly, thinking of the days and nights spent in strategy rooms, training halls, and battlefield streets. He had been a soldier, a protector, a teacher, and a symbol. And though the Queen had kept him under her watch, he had proven that human courage could not be contained. As if on cue, the Queen herself entered the balcony room. Her regal presence was commanding, yet there was a rare softness in her eyes as she approached Kale. "Kale Varen," she said, her voice echoing with authority, "you have exceeded even my highest expectations. Your courage, strategy, and leadership have protected Elysium Prime, saved countless lives, and inspired all of humanity." Kale bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "Your Majesty, I only served as I was able." The Queen stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "And yet that service has changed the course of history. For that reason, I must now grant you a choice, a freedom you have long desired." Kale blinked, surprised. "A choice, Your Majesty?" "Yes," the Queen said. "You have proven yourself not just as a soldier, but as a human capable of inspiring hope. Your duty has been fulfilled in the palace, and your presence here is no longer required for the immediate safety of the crown. You may choose to leave and serve where you wish, or remain as a protector and mentor to those who will defend humanity in the years to come. Kale felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For weeks he had felt the tension of confinement, the frustration of being unable to act where danger called, and now, at last, the Queen offered him the freedom to choose. Kale began, his voice steady but thoughtful. I want to continue serving humanity. But I also want the freedom to act where I am most needed, to face the challenges that may come. I will not abandon my duty, Your Majesty, but I must do so on my own terms. The Queen regarded him silently for a long moment, then nodded. Very well, you shall have your freedom. But know this, you will always be welcome here, Kale Varan, and the crown will rely on your courage whenever it is required. A sense of relief washed over Kale, but it was tempered by understanding. Freedom, he knew, was not the absence of responsibility. It was the ability to choose how to meet it. The following days were filled with preparation for Kale's departure. Citizens came to the palace to thank him, children waved small flags depicting him as a hero, and soldiers saluted as he passed. Kale moved through the crowds with humility, offering words of encouragement and hope. Every smile, every cheer, reminded him that heroism was not measured by personal glory, but by the lives one touched. Princess Lyra approached him during a brief pause in the preparations. Kale, before you leave, she said softly, I want you to know that your presence changed me, too. You've shown me what it truly means to lead with courage, compassion, and wisdom. I hope you will continue to be a part of humanity's story. Kale looked at her, the bond between them deepened by shared trials and mutual respect. I will, Princess. Wherever I go, I will protect, guide, and inspire, and I will always remember what it means to serve humanity with honor. As the day of departure arrived, Kale stood on the landing platform of the palace. The city stretched out before him, sparkling in the sunlight, alive with the sounds of recovery and hope. Ships waited to carry him to distant worlds where his skills would be needed, where new challenges and dangers awaited. Queen Amara approached, her expression both regal and warm. She placed a hand on his shoulder, a rare gesture of personal connection. Go, Kale Varan, she said. Serve humanity with the courage you have shown here, and remember the crown will always honor your deeds. Kale bowed, gratitude and determination in his eyes. I will not fail, Your Majesty. Humanity will always endure. The princess stepped forward, offering a final farewell. Kale, may the stars guide you, and may your courage never waver. Kale nodded. And may humanity continue to shine, as you and the people of Elysium Prime have shown me. As he boarded the vessel, Kale felt the hum of the engines beneath his feet, the pull of the city fading behind him. Yet in his heart, Elysium Prime would always remain a symbol of hope, courage, and resilience. A reminder of why he fought, why he protected, and why he would continue to do so wherever the universe needed him. The vessel lifted into the sky, cutting through clouds and light, and Kale looked out across the expanse of the city one last time. He remembered the faces of those he had protected, the trust in the eyes of Princess Lyra, and the unwavering command of Queen Amara. He had survived battles that would have broken others. He had faced enemies who threatened humanity itself. He had guided and inspired those around him. And now he was free, not from responsibility, but to meet it on his own terms. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Kale thought of the future. Countless worlds, countless people, countless challenges awaited him, and he knew without a doubt that he would meet them all with courage, strength, and unwavering determination. Humanity's story was far from over, and he would continue to be part of it, not as a mere soldier, but as a symbol, a living proof that courage, loyalty, and heart could triumph against any darkness. The vessel broke through the atmosphere, leaving Elysium Prime behind, yet the city's light remained in Kale's mind, guiding him forward. He was ready to face the unknown, to protect the innocent, and to inspire hope wherever it was needed. And somewhere deep in the palace, Princess Lyra and Queen Amara watched the stars, knowing that Kale's courage would continue to shine, a beacon of humanity's strength across the galaxy. Kale Varan, human, fearless, and unyielding, was free, but his freedom was not for himself alone. It was for the people he would protect, the worlds he would defend, and the hope he would carry across the stars. Because humanity's greatest strength had always been in its heart. And Kale was living proof. As the vessel disappeared into the vastness of space, the stars shimmered ahead, bright and infinite. Kale felt a quiet smile form on his face. The universe was wide, full of unknown dangers and untold adventures, and he was ready. Humanity would endure, and so would he.